Well, I got a new window unit, air conditioner for the studio here. There's like extra noise. It's like almost having an open window next to here. Ugh. And of course, the first thing I film, since I get it, there's a storm brewing. So we might get some thunder and we'll deal with it. Hey everybody, your friendly GM Bobby here with another episode of Ask Bobby, the show where you ask me your Shadowrun questions and I answer them hopefully well enough to justify an entire YouTube show about this. Right now, as I speak, while I'm filming this, Origins is going on, the gaming convention Origins. It's an awesome gaming convention where a lot of Shadowrun happens out there in Ohio, and I am here, filming, and not there. No, I'm not jealous. I'm not bitter or jealous or upset that I could be out there playing Shadowrun with all of you guys or with some other people or hanging out with, Mr. Johnson and Opti. Not jealous at all. Should have done a show called Road to Origins. Gen Con will be here soon enough. Before I get started with the questions, I want to give a quick shout out to my friend Damien over there at the Violent Life podcast. You guys have heard me mention him before. He's one of the cast members of the actual play that we're going to be launching in August. He just started a Patreon for his show, Violent Life, and I think that's awesome. Go over there, support it. The stuff that he does there is really, really cool. It's actually voice-acted, dramatic stories that he writes set in the world of Shadowrun. I actually provided the voice for someone in one of the latest drops that was on that podcast feed, Jiffy Todd. I'd say I did a pretty good orc voice, if I do say. Let's go ahead and jump right into the questions before the power in my house gets knocked out due to the storm that's rolling in and causing a bunch of noise. See the lights flickering? This could get serious. Remember that if you'd like to have a better chance of your questions being answered on Ask Bobby, head on over to Patreon, patreon.com/complexaction. All of my patrons get their questions that they submit. They have priority on these Ask Bobby shows. So let's jump right into the questions. First question is from Patreon patron Scott Flowers, who asks, in your video with Aaron, now you'll remember it was an on location, a different location Ask Bobby that I did, and towards the end my good friend Aaron came on to answer a question. You mentioned that Shadowrun can do it all, and list examples of how it can be used for fantasy or modern day campaigns. How many times have you tried using Shadowrun for other settings? What were they, and how well did the Shadowrun rule set perform when used as such? Now I need to clarify what I meant when I said that Shadowrun can be used in a lot of different settings. I didn't mean that you can take the rule set and apply it to a different world or a different game. What I meant was that the world of Shadowrun itself, the setting of the actual game, provides so many different opportunities to play different flavors of games that you want. If you want a higher fantasy type game, there's places in the Shadowrun world for that where you can do that, and there's rules for it that are already baked into the rules that exist in the game. Let's say you want to play a game with no magic at all. Shadowrun can support that. The world itself, it's easy to do. If you want to do like high-powered superheroes that go against dragons and knock down entire corporations, you can build a game around that. There are source books that give you the ins and outs of all these really important parts of the world. You can also do street scum campaigns where you're just little gangers and the most difficult thing you deal with is going up against the Halloweeners, another street gang in Seattle, and it's all possible with Shadowrun because the world is so large and diverse and so packed with such incredible diversity. Now, I've seen discussion and people ask questions about taking the Shadowrun rule set and applying it to other systems, even similar kinds of systems, and it doesn't usually work too well. The reason I think that is because the world of Shadowrun itself, the setting, the history, which is constantly evolving as new editions come out, is so closely tied to the rules that it's hard to split them apart. Whenever a rule changes, for example, in Shadowrun, they adapt the setting and the world to make it so that those rule changes make sense because they want to create a living, breathing world that is always on the move, always changing and always bringing you the next bit of story of the Sixth World. I'd love to hear from people in the comments who have taken the Shadowrun system and applied it to other games. Scott Flowers might be interested to see how you did that and what games they were. Next question comes from Patreon patron Methis, who asks, how many D6 dice do you own? Show your prettiest, and the complex action ones don't count. Fair enough. Let me see how many, let me show you. These are D20. I honestly don't know if I would be considered to have a lot of D6s at all. I just got how many I thought I would need, and I've kept it at that. I've not had a lot of fancy dice either. This is a Crown Royal bag, requisite dice holder, shoved inside of a little jar, and it's full of these generic bicycle brand dice. I've got 100 of those, probably another 10 or 20 D6 inside my pound o dice here that I got from, I think, Chessex. I don't know, what's my favorite one in here? Blue's a nice color. Ooh, here's a nice red and blue shiny sparkly one. Green block. That's not very interesting. What do you like? Do you like the numbers or the pips better? So I often feel that the pips look nicer on fancy looking dice, but the numbers are easier to read. I don't know. Ooh, look at this little tiny one. Why are all the D20s the really nice looking ones? I don't know. I don't really have, I probably have about 120. And while I'm not allowed to use my complex action dice to say that they're the prettiest, I am going to plug them and say, if you head on over to Patreon, there's a level. If you sign up as a patron, every month that you're at that level, you get a die. Check it out. Patreon.com/complexaction. Next question is from YouTube user Scott. That's 2 Scotts in one episode. I believe that the FCC might be monitoring that. We're approaching our limit. I have a question on the usage of flamethrowers, more specifically on flamethrowers in combat. That's probably, hopefully, most of the time when you're using it. I have a player who's using a Shiawase arms incinerator. We also don't own all of the books, so there may not be an issue, but we believe that the flamethrower shoots in a cone and deals extra damage due to the fact that it is an elemental attack. Is any of this true? So first of all, to start with, the flamethrower is an exotic ranged weapon. So that means you have to have the exotic ranged weapon flamethrower skill, a specific skill purchased for flamethrowers. For targeting people, you have kind of 2 options, both of which are complex actions. You can target a single target and all the damage gets directed at that one person and they take the brunt of all the damage. Or you can target multiple targets. You can target up to 3 targets total, and the rule is that your primary target, any additional targets have to be within 2 meters of that primary target. And the damage value that each of them has to resist is dropped by 2 per extra target. So let's take the example of the Shiawase Blazer that is in the Run and Gun supplement. It has a base damage value of 10 physical. So if you fire that at the single person, they're gonna have to resist 10 physical damage, just like any other attack, like if you're shooting a gun. They do the defense test and resist 10 physical. If you're firing it at 2 people, those 2 people have to be within 2 meters of each other, and the -2 makes it so both of them are defending against 8 physical. And if you're firing it at 3 people, then those 2 extras have to be within 2 meters of that primary person, but all 3 of them are doing damage value of -4 for a 6 physical that they're all, because it's being spread out. Don't forget to include fire damage from a fire-based weapon like a flamethrower has an AP of -6, so you're gonna subtract 6 from the armor of whoever is being attacked. That AP is listed in the gun's stats, the flamethrower's stats. Flamethrowers do have ranges like every other weapon. They use the taser ranges, so it's actually a pretty short range, except there's a little bit of a tweak to it. The only time that the range matters is at extreme range, and it's only a -1 instead of the typical, I think, -5 that an extreme range would have. So -1 for extreme range. Anything less than that, like long or medium range, doesn't have any penalties at all. Now, you asked about elemental damage. So this is after you've done the initial attack. Anything that the flamethrower shoots at has the potential to catch fire, and that's up to GM discretion whether or not it catches fire. But if you're shooting it at a person, chances are they're gonna catch on fire. So that's elemental damage. You'll want to look up the rules for fire elemental damage on page, I think it's 171 of the SR5 core rulebook. But the target is going to resist the initial damage from the flamethrower attack as normal. I hope that answered your questions, Scott, and the other Scott, and Methis, all of your questions. I love answering them. Everybody else gets to benefit from the answers as well. Please, Go into the comments, ask more questions. I need more questions. I love answering your questions. A little piece of news that you might be interested in hearing. I don't know if you can hear the rain. It's starting to come down out here, so I gotta hurry up. We got lots of exciting things coming later in this year. I hope you guys stick around and check it out. If you liked what you saw here, if you like the show and the stuff we do on this channel, then please consider subscribing if you haven't already. That way this stuff will get sent to you. You get notified when we got new stuff. Also, consider becoming a patron. This show and all the stuff we do in association with Complex Action would not be possible without the generous contributions of our patrons over at Patreon. Patreon.com/complexaction. Check it out. Really good big shout out to you guys over at Origins. Hope you guys are having fun. By the time you see this, you will have been back. I hope that you didn't die too many times in your Shadowrun games, and I hope you got a lot of swag while you were there. I'm looking forward to seeing lots of people over at Gen Con, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye. It's like when you've got a window unit, it's like the window is open. You can just hear the rain there. And it feels like, and then the thunder's going on and the lights are flickering. I just feel like a lightning bolt is just gonna shoot through and destroy my camera. It makes me really nervous.